Now I'm going to show you how to set up the database for using these examples and in general. If you're using WAMP server, it's going to make things a lot easier because everything's going to be installed for you. Otherwise, you have to download the PHP administrative screens here for PHP MyAdmin. It's open source, easy to install, and you can just use the README to get it going. Here we are in PHP MyAdmin from the local host, which is important. That's local to this machine. We couldn't access this from another IP address or something like that based on what we're going to set things to here. That's pretty secure. You don't want your root to be your root user account, the admin account, to be accessible from anybody that might stumble on your Apache server via the internet, because if you're on the internet, then that can actually be visible if you don't have your firewall preventing it. PHP MyAdmin is the nested folder structure, and this is the main admin page. We'll be setting some privileges. You'll notice here that the configuration warning is coming up down here at the bottom. The root admin account doesn't have a password, and that's not terribly secure, so you can read this, but it is basically telling us to change that root password. If we also take a peek at the connecting to the data example here, we see the warning is coming up that user 1 doesn't exist at localhost. Localhost is how this is set up. This is specifically only usable from the localhost machine, and the IP address doesn't matter here in this case because the localhost is how it's going to connect. User 1 is an account that we're going to create right now. So we'll get rid of this and that other configuration error before moving forward. So we click Privileges. You'll see a couple of accounts here. We're going to delete this any account here. We don't need that one. And the root account, we're going to set a password. Before we do that, because that's going to cause a couple of issues, we're going to add that user 1 by clicking the Add a New User button right here. We'll put in that user 1. We won't select any host. We'll select local host. If we select any host, you may notice that %, and that's what it means. Any host not specifically limited to the local host, so other IP addresses could access this account, if they have access to the server, that is. But we will select localhost. This is so we can prevent certain intrusions into our database. And we'll just select the basics here. We'll explain this in a little bit, but if you want to select data, actually view the data, grab it from the database, or insert, update, or delete data, rows, columns, different bits of information, then you need to select all 4. We need all 4 selectable here. You could set things up in a different way. That's for another time, of course.